Hello, fictional. Welcome to the crossover What Ifs. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruko becomes the apex predator empress? Huge shout out to Arashi Uchiha for this story. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Prologue. Oh my kami Saratobi Hiruzen whispered with horror, disgusted in what his old rival had done beyond what he had been prior. Having finally found a piece of hard evidence against Danzo, the Sunday Ami had led an aggressive and offensive investigation against the old warhawk, eventually getting enough evidence to lead a raid on the man's root facilities. Among them was a laboratory hidden deep within the Hokage monument. After infiltrating the place with several dozen Anbu that were only loyal to the Hokage himself and handful of Jonins the Hokage had handpicked for the operation, they struck, arresting those they could and killing those they couldn't. Several of them had committed suicide, biting down a poisoned tooth to end their lives before they could be questioned. But that wasn't what sickened the professor. It was the occupant of the liquid-filled glass obelisk set before him. Appearing to be between the ages of 6 or 7, was a child with 3 whisker marks on each cheek, black hair, blonde kitsune ears with black tips on the child's head, eyes were colored obsidian cat-like with black slit pupils, nails were pointed and sharp-colored black, skin was pale, and what else did the child had? A 6-foot tail that was black with a blade at the end of it, 5-digit hands too. Hiruzen couldn't believe what his old eyes were seeing. This child looked like his surrogate grandson Naruto Uzumaki except. This Naruto he was looking at now in the container was a female. Is that no it can't be Itachi Uchiha muttered in shock behind his Anbu weasel mask looking at Naruto as he approached removing his mask from his face to see the person with both eyes. Naruto Hiruzen whispered, still shocked and couldn't believe what his old rival had done to the child he once considered a surrogate grandson. Hokage-sama, we must let her out. Exclaimed Yugao who was codenamed Nico while Hiruzen glanced at the red button that said release across it in bright yellow lettering and flipping the clear plexiglass cover and pressed the large button with his hand as the liquid in the container was draining, with Itachi now opening the container to pulling Naruto out who was still asleep as if she was in a coma. The Uchiha cradled Naruto in his arms looking at his comrades and Hokage until Kakashi and his squad of Anbu appeared. Hokage-sama Danzo has escaped we failed he said bowing respectfully towards his leader, with the Anbu doing the same, while Hiruzen growled with a scowl on his face that his old rival had escaped. Orders sir? Asked Yugao with Hiruzen turning to her. Find what else Danzo has been hiding and keeping down here and find anyone else who was a victim in his cruel experiments until you do destroy this laboratory and everything in it. Spoke Hiruzen with furious anger with his Anbu and Jonins nodding, leaving the Hokage with Itachi and Yugao. What are we going to do about her Hokage-sama? She seems to be in a coma said Yugao with him now sighing sadly looking at Naruto. We will return her to the village and take her to the hospital. I may have to contact Tsunade if our medics fail to wake Naruto out of her coma he said grimly. What of Danzo? Itachi now spoke. He will be labeled as a traitor for the crime he has done the Hokage replied with venom still furious at his old rival. Let's go it seems I have to start a meeting with the council and inform them this however Yugao and Itachi you two take Naruto to the hospital and guard her when the meeting is over, I will come to the hospital. He said with them nodding as Itachi carried Naruto in bridal style walking out the lab with Yugao following him. Council chamber. Saratobi Hiruzen had summoned both sides of his council, the Shinobi Council and the Civilian Council alongside of them were the elders the Hokage's advisors Homura and Kaharu, the only elder missing was Danzo. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. This is an emergency meeting which is why I have summoned you all here. Hiruzen said in a serious tone looking at both councils who tensed under his tone. What seems to be the problem Hokage-sama? Asked a civilian council member while the fire shadow sighed at what he was going to say. The reason I have summoned you all is to discuss an S-rank secret and if it leaves this council chamber you will be killed on the spot. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Said Hiruzen with seriousness in his tone while leaking killer intent to get the message through both councils as they flinched at his tone and they knew if they spoke of the secret they would be killed. What's so important about this secret Hokage-sama? Asked Fugaku Uchiha who raised an eyebrow and was anxious about the secret. Before Hiruzen could speak Homura interrupted him by saying. Where's Danzo? It's not like him to be late. Spoke the old elder while his friend Kaharu wanted to know where was the old warhawk. This discussion is very much about Danzo and what he has done. Said Hiruzen with venom in his tone at the mention of his former teammate as both councils turned to him looking tensed. What has Danzo done Hokage-sama? Asked Shikaku who had a feeling the old warhawk had done something horrible and from the way the Hokage said Danzo's name might confirm his suspicion. Danzo has committed a treasonous crime and is declared a traitor for what he has done tonight. I have discovered that not only he still had root active but has been keeping orphans in his root facilities, molding them into emotionless root Anbu. But that's not all he did, he has done what would Orochimaru be proud of, he has experimented on a child. Said Hiruzen with a cold tone, earning shocked faces and gasps from everyone in the council room as Hiashi Hyuga now answered. Who is this child did Danzo experimented on Hokage-sama? The Hyuga clan head asked while many in the room wanted to know as well. The child he has been experimenting on was none other than Naruto Uzumaki, he replied with sadness and disgust for what Danzo did. Both councils looked shocked and horrified. Did he tamper with the Kyuubi seal? Asked Inochi Yamanaka. I do not know, I don't know what he has done, but I managed to find this file he documented about Naruto, the old Kage said, pulling out a file from his robes that had everything about Naruto, and on the front of the file was labeled in red handwriting that said, Project Empress, laying the file on the table, everyone looking in shock. Project Empress? Said Shikaku in confusion, looking at the file. Something told him that Danzo may have done something else to Naruto. Yes, Naruto is not a male anymore, he is a female now, muttered Hiruzen, making the council gasp. What the hell did Danzo do? He turned the pup into a female now, spoke Tsumen Yuzuka with shock to make sure she heard that correctly, with Hiruzen nodding. Where is she now, Hokage-sama? Asked Choza while the old Kage answered. She is now being held in the hospital guarded by Weasel and Nico. As of right now I will double more Anbu to look after her, and I myself will check on her. She seems to be in a coma. I'm depending on our doctors at the hospital to wake her from her coma, and if she doesn't, I may have to summon Tsunade Senju back to the village to wake her and summon Jiraiya as well to check the Kyuubi seal, to make sure Danzo didn't tamper with it or damage it due to experimenting on her, he said, with many looking a little relieved about what he said. This meeting is adjourned, and remember this is S-ranked. If what was said in this chamber mentioned out in the village you will be put to death, understand? He said, getting nods from everyone as he nodded as well. Good. He said, now getting up from his seat, now leaving the council room to go to the hospital. Elsewhere out on the borders of Fire Country far from Konoha. In a hidden base where an old man was with a cane, a bandaged face that covered his right eye and his arm in a sling. Besides the old man were a group of Anbu that had blank masks and the kanji for rude on their masks as the old man spoke. Sigh. He said while a pale boy stepped forward to the old man and got on one knee in a bound position. Yes, Danzo-sama, Sai replied in a emotionless tone, looking up to his master. I have a special task for you and I entrust this mission to you. Danzo stated with a stoic expression. What is your bidding, Lord Danzo? Sai asked. You are to return to Konoha and be a spy for me. I want you to let me know what happens in the village while I am in exile, Danzo said with Sai nodding. And I also want you to keep a sharp eye on Project Empress, inform me of what she does and her development, he said with the pale boy nodding. As you wish, Danzo-sama, it will be done, Sai replied. But now go and do not fail me, he said in a harsh tone as the boy rose up and went on his way back to Konoha. What should we do, Danzo-sama said, looking at his master. We are going to a new base of operations, strengthen our forces and remain hidden until the time is right to show ourselves, he said looking up at the clouds. What of Project Empress? Spoke Torin. Do not worry if she were to find out and seek revenge for what I did to her. I have a fail-safe in case she lashes out on us. I placed a loyalty seal on her so that I could control her. She will only listen to me and no else once I have that seal activated. He said with a grin. Let's go, we must keep going. It won't be long till Hiruzen sent hunter nins after me. He said, walking now with his army of root behind him. He hoped his plan will go. All he needed to do was wait when the time comes, and if his former teammate Hiruzen were to pass away, he and his root will reclaim Konoha and mold it to his image with Naruto at his side, will be a weapon for Konoha like he always wanted, then rise to the top by making Konoha the strongest village and him becoming the new 5th Hokage or 6th Hokage. But first things first, he needed to find himself and his root a new base for them to hide in exile. Konoha Hospital. In the hospital, Naruto was in a room still in her coma while the doctors and nurse were checking on her like the Hokage ordered, though the Anbu were guarding the door while Itachi and Yuga were inside the room watching the doctors as they waited for the Hokage to come and meet them. He walked in while the doctors and nurse alongside Itachi and Yuga bowed to him as the first doctor came to him. She was a female as he spoke. How is she doing, doctor? He asked. She's stable and somewhat healthy, however, Hokage-sama, there seems to be a problem. She answered to her superior. What's the problem? He wondered with a frown. We can't get her out of her coma. We tried everything. The only one with the skill of healing and awaking her from her coma would be Tsunade Senju, the doctor said as she held her clipboard writing notes. I see very well. I will do my best to contact Tsunade and get her back in the village. Anything else I need to know, doctor? He said with a sigh. We did a few scanning on her, Hokage-sama. Her chakra is very different and her blood is also green and acidic, she explained while he and the others in the room looked shocked. Why is Naruto's blood acidic and green? Anything else? He asked with a look of worry on his face. Not so far Millard, we are still checking on her to see what develops, she replied. Very well, I will take my leave, keep me posted on what happens to her, he said with her nodding as he turned to Yugao and Itachi with them bowing. You two are in charge, consider this a S rank, do not let anyone in this room but me and her, doctor, understood? He said with them nodding. But I'm going to my office and make it my business to contact both my former students about this matter, he said, walking out the room, leaving Itachi and Yugao and the doctors alone with Naruto. Unknown to anyone that Naruto herself twitched and shivered while she was in her coma. Naruto was twisting and turning in her coma while she was in her hospital room alone outside her door, where Nico and Weasel on guard, like the Sandaime stationed them to do. It was midnight, everything was quiet and peaceful, while Naruto continued to twist and turn in her sleep while she was sweating. Flashback 2 years later. Get out, demon. You don't deserve to live here anymore. You can fend for yourself. Sneered the orphanage owner, who closed the door, locking it, leaving Naruto out on the streets, while the blonde boy had little tears coming from his eyes as he walked off to go find himself a place to sleep. Maybe his Hokage Ai could give him a place to stay in the morning, since the orphanage kicked him out. He was only 4 years old. Now that he had no place to go, he went into the alleyway, unaware to him that he was being watched by two Anbu with blank masks with the kanji for root on them as they jumped from rooftop to follow Naruto. Naruto sighed as he sadly looked up at the stars of the night, wishing why was he always treated like this. He was so confused and sad to why every day he gets treated like this, and why does the village hate him so much. The only people who never shunned him was the Ichiraku ramen restaurant, his Hokage Jiji, Weasel and Nico. Naruto just wished he could be loved. He wanted a family and friends to acknowledge him, despite his ambition into becoming Hokage, so that everyone can respect him for once, and he promised himself that he will make that dream come true. He was about to keep walking until he was suddenly hit in the back of the neck, knocking him out cold. The last thing he saw before passing out was a Anbu with a blank mask. An hour later, Naruto found himself strapped to a table looking frightened, seeing a bunch of doctors and an old man with a bandaged face. By the old man and doctors were a squad of Anbu in blank masks. "Shall we begin the procedure, sir?" asked a doctor who was looking at the old man. "Yes, begin the procedure. Now that we have the QB Jinchuriki in our grasp, we will see can he survive this experiment, since all of our other chosen test subjects died from this procedure, so I'm sure the QB Jinchuriki won't die from this," spoke the old man with no emotion in his tone. Naruto looked frightened as he looked up at the doctors now surrounding him with their expressions showing no emotion. "Please don't kill me, I'm a good boy," pleaded Naruto, making Danzo turn towards him. "Do not worry, boy, why would it kill a child with such great potential?" Danzo said with a fake grandfatherly tone. "You're not going to kill me?" replied Naruto, who looked a little relieved until Danzo showed a dark grin. "No, I have other plans for you, dear boy. I'm going to mold you into the greatest weapon ever," Danzo said while giving a nod to a doctor. The doctor pulled out a syringe filled with a sedative, walking towards Naruto. Naruto paled seeing the syringe. He tried to get off the table, but couldn't due to the restraints on him. He struggled trying to break free, but before he could try to speak in protest, the doctor struck the syringe in Naruto's neck, injecting him with the sedative. Once Naruto felt the drug go into him, he tried to fight it, but couldn't. He felt his body not obeying him, plus he felt sleepy for some reason and darkness was starting to take him. The last thing he saw before his eyes could close was the doctors were closing in on him as he closed his eyes completely. 2 days later. "What's the status?" asked Danzo, who was looking over Naruto's sleeping form. "We are still working on the procedure, Lord Danzo, but there seems to be some complications," spoke the doctor, causing Danzo to frown. "Explain," he said. "Well, due to the procedure something is stopping us from completing it," spoke the doctor. "And that is?" Danzo said, not looking pleased with this information. "It's the QB's chakra, it's somehow stopping us," he said with Danzo scowling. "Well, enforce the infection into him, I want to see what develops," demanded Danzo. "Lord Danzo, with all due respect, if we do, wouldn't it damage the seal to the QB?" protested the doctor. "Nonsense, I'm sure nothing will happen to the QB's seal, since the Yondai may put a lot of effort into this seal," said Danzo, now grabbing a large syringe filled with some type of substance into it. As he pulled up Naruto's shirt and without hesitation, he stick the large syringe deep into Naruto's stomach, where the seal was injected all of the serum into Naruto, every last drop of it. Naruto flinched in his sleep as he felt the syringe impale him and felt his DNA and molecules rearrange once the serum came in contact with his cells and DNA structure. Danzo pulled out and stared at Naruto with a pleased smile. "Now we will see can you survive this, my future weapon," he said, turning to the doctor. "Keep him sedated and let me know what happens," Danzo said with the doctor nodding as the old warhawk left. A week later. "What's the status, how is it coming?" asked Danzo, who now appeared as his one eye widened at what he was seeing. "Her status has increased," the doctor replied, while Danzo turned on his Sharingan behind his bandaged face. "Her? What do you mean?" He has changed into a female. Danzo said with rare surprise. Yes sir, the serum you injected him with has rearranged his DNA cells and molecules and even changed his gender, so therefore he is no longer a male, just a female. The doctor said, going over his report for Danzo. Anything else? Danzo asked. Yes sir, her chakra is off the chart sir, it's increasing drastically fast and her blood changed color to green, spoke the doctor, while Danzo stood there watching Naruto like a hawk, absorbing everything the doctor has said. Anything else? He asked, hoping there was more to this. None so far my lord, the doctor replied in a motionless tone. I see, Danzo said, sighing a little, giving the doctor a glance. Inform me of what else happens, I will be going, he said, with the doctor nodding as he left before giving a dark smile towards Naruto. 2 weeks later. Naruto groggily wakes up, unaware of his current change. He looks around with his vision still blurry. He couldn't remember where was he began to speak. Hello? He spoke but paused when he realized something. Why did his voice sound feminine? What the hell, he spoke again in his female tone with his vision getting better. So you're awake at last, spoke's voice with her turning towards the one who spoke. It was Danzo. Who are you and where am I? He spoke his female tone again. My name is not important right now my dear weapon. He said with a smile. Weapon? She replied. Yes, you are my weapon and with your great potential you will make all of Konoha's enemies tremble in fear, said Danzo, now throwing a mirror to her as she caught it. When she looked at the mirror her eyes widened. When she saw her reflection her face looked more feminine. As she looked up at Danzo, who was standing there grinning a bit. What the hell happened to me? Why do I look like a girl? Demanded Naruto. Let's just say I gave you a change to be my perfect weapon and the side effects has changed you to be a young girl, stated Danzo while she looked horrified. Is there a way to change me back? She shouted with him shaking his head. No, you're a woman for the rest of your life, he said with no care in his voice. No, this can't be. There has to be a way, I don't want to remain a girl. She said with tears coming out her eyes while Danzo stood there with no expression on his face. As I said, you're a woman forever and you will stay that way until the day you die and serve me as my pet, Danzo said smirking. I don't belong to you. She shouted in anger. You are now. Your root property, Danzo said, snapping his fingers with root Anbu, appearing as they surrounded Naruto while she glanced around seeing she was outnumbered. Just who the hell are you? What do you want with me? She shouted with the root Anbu closing in on her with their tantos out. I am Danzo Hashirama, I am your master for you to obey, he declared. Anne. Sorry if I misspelled his last name. No. She yelled as the root Anbu grabbed her arms. Take her away to a new facility, Danzo said. With them doing what he said, they dragged Naruto as she yelled and screamed at Danzo, yelling death threats at him. A month later. Naruto was locked up in a compound with seals all over to prevent her from escaping. Numerous times she has tried to escape, but couldn't. Danzo placed security seals all over the compound to keep her from breaking free. Her compound is a dark cell designed for her, though she has changed. She was still pressing to escape out this hellhole and find Hokage Jiji, but she doesn't realize she's in Konoha since Danzo sealed her away in a new facility so the doctors could run tests on her and study her. I hate it here, she said, sitting by a wall with claw marks on it. She wished someone could come and rescue her, but who? She's been imprisoned here for a month. She's tired of going through tests and be properly conditioned as a weapon like Danzo claimed. She swore if she ever breaks free she will kill him, that is if it happens. During her imprisonment here she noticed that she was changing and feeling somewhat different for some odd reason. Whatever Danzo injected into her was causing another side effect. A year later. Naruto is now 5 years old, sitting in the corner of her compound wall with her hair now the color of black. Her eyes were now obsidian color with a black silk pupil. Her nails looked straight but black and sharp as steel. Her skin was no longer tan, just pale. On her head, she grew fox ears. They were blonde with black tips. Her hands were 5-digit. But that's not all what changed her. She even grew a tail that was longer than her body. At the end of her tail was a sharp blade at the end of it, as if it was a spear. Nothing else has changed so far until Danzo decided to train her for combat testing against his root Anbu to test her strength. She was pitted against 2 of his strongest root Anbu, Torun and Fu. In her fights she was getting aggressive as if she was an apex predator. Though this isn't the first time she has gone aggressive in combat exercise, she was like this towards any root Anbu she was paired against. She often killed some root Anbu in those combat exercises, which pleased Danzo seeing this side of her. She has killed 13 root Anbu and sent 20 in the root infirmary just by ripping their limbs off or breaking them. She vented her pent-up anger on root Anbu. Even how she was imprisoned inside that compound for a year had changed her. She became merciless, cold, and vicious. She even attempted to kill Danzo the moment he released her from the compound for the combat exercise. It took him, Torun and Fu, to put her down and subdue her. Her eyes held no warmth, just no expression in those warm eyes she used to have before she was kidnapped. She didn't even know who she was anymore. She wasn't Naruto Uzumaki anymore. The Naruto Uzumaki everyone used to know and love was gone or dead due to her imprisonment and enslavement by Danzo. A day ago she was being sent to a new facility. She had chakra cuffs on her. She had 30 rude Anbu escorting her to the new facility. Her head was covered with a helmet. And think like those helmets from Elfen Lied. She's wearing one of those. Now why was she going to another facility? To go through another test and to be experimented on again, since Danzo wanted to inject new bloodlines into her to make her stronger, since she was checked for a physical by root doctors to be sure she was getting powerful and healthy to be conditioned as Danzo's weapon. Before she could be locked away in this new facility she thought one thing. Someday I will break out of here and kill Danzo if it's the last thing I do, though I won't return to Konoha. The villagers will never accept me for what's look like now. Maybe I will find a new village or just run off somewhere where no one can find me. Those were her last thoughts before being locked up in a lab and to be experimented once again. End of flashback. Hokage Tower. Hiruzen Sarutobi was writing messages to his two former students to return to Konoha. He hoped and prayed to Kami that he would be able to reason with Tsunade to return to awaken Naruto. Though in case Tsunade refuses to return, he would have no choice but to mark her in the bingo book and place a bounty on her so high that many missing nins will hunt after her plus and hunter nins after her. He didn't care if she was still grieving over the loss of her lover, brother, Kushina and Minato. He needed her back now to help Naruto, and Jiraiya was needed too, so that he could check on the QB seal on Naruto to make sure Danzo didn't tamper with it. And speaking of Danzo, Hiruzen had sent every available hunter nin and Anbu with them to track Danzo down, since he is now declared a traitor. Danzo, you won't get away with this. Spat Hiruzen, still angry for what Danzo did. He kept Naruto locked away in those root facilities. Once Naruto was missing on the night he was kicked out of the orphanage, Hiruzen had sent all Anbu and Jonins to find him. He even tried to find Naruto with his crystal ball, but couldn't find him. Still for over 2 years, he has been looking for Naruto everywhere in the village. It saddened him to think he lost Naruto and failed Minato and Kushina's dying wish. But tonight he found Naruto, but Naruto is now a female now. At first he wanted Inoichi to go into Naruto's memories and see what Danzo did, but was thinking that wouldn't be a good idea since the QB could be in Naruto's mind and couldn't risk any chances. Though to say he was worried about Naruto and hoping she would be alright, this could have all been avoided had not the orphanage kicked Naruto out and gave Danzo the chance to take Naruto without him knowing. And the orphanage owner who kicked Naruto out had been arrested and sent to Ibiki for torture. He assumed that the orphanage owner was probably an accomplice for Danzo. The old Kage sighed as he got done writing his messages to his students and sent his monkey summons to give them their messages as he slumped in his chair looking at the window towards the hospital, hoping Naruto would be alright and safe since she is no longer in Danzo's clutches. An Inyazuka nin walked in. Any luck on tracking Danzo? The Sande Ami asked with the Inyazuka nin shaking his head. No Hokage-sama, we are unable to track him, spoke the Inyazuka nin. I see, call off the search for now, tell everyone to report back to the village, the Sande Ami said with the dog nin nodding and walking out. Wherever you are Danzo, I will find you. I will ask Jiraiya for his spy network to find you, Hiruzen said with a thought, glancing at a picture of his sensei and team. He wasn't sure if Koharu and Homura were in on this with Danzo. He hoped they weren't. Morning. The hospital. It was morning with the sun shining through the window while Naruto was still in her bed sleeping and was twitching slightly as her fingers twitched. I think it's time to wake our queen up, don't you agree? Said a deep voice in Naruto's mindscape while 2-3 figures were nodding. Yes, it's time to awaken our successor, spoke a calm female tone. I concur with Zeno here, awaken our future Empress Fox. Said another female voice while the third figure nodded. Very well, but when will we have a personal talk with my vessel? Spoke the female voice. We will do it the moment she enrolls herself in an academy, since the Hokage had found her and saved her from that old man who used our genes to turn her into what she is, spoke the third figure in a sultry female voice. Then it's settled, when she graduates from the Shinobi Academy we will all talk to her, understand Zeno and Sil, said the first figure with purple eyes. We understand, Sarah, spoke Zeno, who was hissing slightly looking at Sarah. Okay kid, it's time for you to wake up, said the deep female voice. Moments later Naruto cracked open her eyes, seeing her vision was blurry again as she glanced around to see where was she. Where am I? She spoke looking at herself in a hospital gown while her vision was starting to adjust. She paused by looking around her surroundings. She was hoping this was a dream, she couldn't be in a hospital. She slowly got up out the bed but fell, trying to stand herself up as she looked around as she turned towards the sun, which blinded her as she stepped away and shielded her eyes from the sunlight. Wait, the sun? She realized something just now. She was in the hospital and finds herself in sunlight that only meant one thing. She was rescued. Before she could speak the hospital doors opened, revealing two Anbu with a weasel mask and Nico mask and a doctor who looked shocked. Her eyes narrowed when she saw the Anbu. "Naruto, you're awake," spoke Nico. "Who are you? How do you know my name?" She spoke with venom. "Don't you remember us?" asked Weasel. "No, I don't. Where am I?" Naruto asked. "You're in Konoha," the doctor answered. That was all Naruto needed to know. Her face went into shock hearing what the doctor said. Her eyes narrowed. Konoha had rescued her. "Where is your Hokage?" she said with disdain in her voice. "We will inform him immediately. Just stay where you are. You're safe here." Naruto spoke Weasel while Nico nodded. Did a body flicker to report to the Hokage. Naruto sat down, not looking pleased and not happy with where she is at. For the past 2 years, they finally found her and rescued her. She wanted to run out of here and escape from Konoha, but couldn't. She wasn't at full strength. She needed to eat to get her strength back up. All she had to do was wait till they brought the Hokage. Weasel was watching Naruto like a hawk. To him she looked somewhat beautiful and exotic. The doctor wanted to come by and check Naruto only for her tail to whip out and point at the doctor. "Don't touch me," Naruto warned, not trusting the doctor as she stepped away in fear a bit of what Naruto could do to her. She seems to be hostile towards doctors, thought Weasel. It wasn't long till Nico and the Hokage finally came while Naruto turned her glance towards him. "Hello Hokage-san," she said with no emotion as he flinched at her tone. "Naruto," he whispered sadly at how cold she was. Naruto locked her cold black eyes at Hiruzen, who looked at her with sadness. "Naruto," he spoke softly looking at her features. "Hokage-san," she said in a monotone as he winced walking towards her. They both locked eyes at each other as Hiruzen just stared at his surrogate grandson turned girl. "Naruto, I am so sorry for not being able to protect you from Danzo. I have been looking for you 2 years and I just discovered what kind of treasonous things Danzo has done. Please forgive me. I tried sending all of my best Anbu and Jonins to find you, but there was no trace of you. I almost lost hope that you couldn't be found. But haven't when last night I learned of what Danzo did and that he was the one responsible for kidnapping you," he said in a pleading tone while she stared at him with her black eyes. She wanted to be angry at him but held her emotional and stayed calm. "Where is Danzo?" she whispered, but Hiruzen heard her. "Danzo has escaped, Naruto. When me and my Anbu raided his base, we were too late to stop him. However, he is now a traitor and is marked with a bounty so high that missing nins or hunter nins will go after him. Wherever he is, he will be found and will be brought to justice for what he's done to you and all the crimes he's caused. I promise you this," Hiruzen said with authority in his tone while Naruto clenched her fists in anger, hissing at what she heard. Danzo escaped. How was she going to gain her revenge with him now missing? "I will kill you, Danzo, once I get stronger. This weapon, as you call me, will kill you," thought Naruto with anger narrowing her eyes. Hiruzen noticed how angry she is and could feel hatred rolling off her at the mention of Danzo. "Naruto," he said, gaining her attention. "In a day or two you have to stay in the hospital. My students are coming to see you." He said while she gasped. "I can't stay here, Hokage-san," she said, shocking everyone in the room including Hiruzen. "Why is that, Naruto?" he asked, winced hearing her call him Hokage-san and not Hokage-jiji. "Because I can't trust your people here in this village if they tend to get hostile towards me, because if they do, I won't be responsible for what happens to them," she said in a chilly voice. "Naruto, you have to stay. I can't let you go," he said with her glaring at him. "And why not? I want to leave this village," she yelled, leaking killer intent, surprising the Hokage, Yugao, Itachi and the doctor. "You expect me to stay in a village that hates me and doesn't want nothing to do with me," she yelled, leaking more killer intent at them while she was unaware that the walls and ceilings were cracked by her power that she unleashed. Hiruzen, Itachi and Yugao widened their eyes at her, and this power that she was unleashing was cracking the walls, ceilings and ground. "This power, what is it?" thought Itachi with his Sharingan on, but cringed and touched his eyes since the power Naruto radiated affected his eyes. "My Kami, what is this?" thought Yugao, who flinched feeling this power while the doctor flinched and backed away. "This power, what is it? Could it be the QPs? No, it's something else," thought Hiruzen, trying to find a way to calm Naruto down before things get worse. "Nah, Naruto, please calm down. I know you don't trust the villagers and have every right to be angry at them, but it's for your own good you have to stay here. Konoha is your home," Hiruzen said, trying to reason with her. "Home? This place isn't home to me. You expect me to stay here and go through all the abuse your people give me?" she screamed with her power rising, cracking windows and destroying everything else around her. "Please, Naruto, I thought you want to be Hokage. That's your dream, right?" said Hiruzen while she chuckled darkly. "Me being Hokage? Yeah, right. Why would I want to be Hokage when the villagers can't even acknowledge me?" she shouted. "Naruto, please stay here. Konoha is your home. Just give it a chance. I promise you once you become a Chunin or Jonin I will grant you your wish to leave as you please," said Hiruzen while Naruto glared at him before calming down. "You promise to keep your part of the deal?" she asked, not sure if she could trust him. "Yes, once you reach Jonin I will grant you Sanin-like status to let you travel," he said, nodding while her eyes hardened. "Fine, I will stay here," she said with a sigh. But Naruto, I promise I will make this up to you once my students get here to check on you. I will enroll you to the Shinobi Academy, he said with her frowning, but nodded. But is my apartment still up? She asked while the Hokage winced. I'm afraid not, the villagers burned it down, he said with her eyes narrowed. Then I'm living somewhere else, I'm living in the forest, she said with Hiruzen look at her like she was crazy. Naruto, are you sure you want to live in that forest? He asked with her nodding. Yes, the forest of death will be my home. My forest, I can't stay in the village, besides Danzo once sent me in a forest alone for a week for survival, she said with coldness in her tone, while Hiruzen frowned as did Itachi and Yugao. Very well, the forest of death will be your home, but you're still going to the academy, my students will be here soon, I'm waiting on their reply. He said with her staring at him. As you wish, she said sitting back on the hospital bed. I expect everything to be requested, she said. Naruto, Nico and Weasel are your personal bodyguards for now on, and this doctor will be your personal doctor, alright? He said while she gave them a glance. Okay, she said. I will see you later, Naruto, I got business in the office, I'll see you when I'm done with paperwork, let me know if you need anything, he said, motioning Itachi and Yugao to follow him, walking out the door, leaving Naruto alone with her doctor. Listen, you two are now full-time bodyguards for Naruto, understood? He said with them nodding. Anko will be joining you too, she will be the third bodyguard since Naruto decided to live in the forest of death, and no one knows that place better than Anko. He said. You three are her bodyguards, we must do everything in our power to keep Naruto here in the village, he said, shocking the two. You're not holding your part of the deal, she mentioned. Asked Itachi as the Hokage signed. No, she has to stay here, I can't let her leave as she pleases, he said. Hokage-sama, with all due respect, you can't just keep her here forever, if she finds out you didn't keep your part of the deal she will go berserk on this village, Yugao said with him sighing since she was right. I'm sorry, Yugao, but she has to stay in the village, Naruto is too important and she's very valuable, he said, now thinking about Minato's last wish. Itachi's eyes widened instantly, putting two and two together at what the Hokage was getting at. Naruto is the Yondaime's legacy, he thought. Itachi, you stand guard here, Yugao go get Anko and tell her to meet me at my office. He said while Itachi nodded, Yugao nodded and Shunshined to get Anko, while the Hokage himself vanished in a swirl of leaves. Jiraiya Tsunade, I hope the two of you get my message, Hiruzen thought. Mount Myaboku. Jiraiya sat on the ground with his legs crossed, reading the message he got from his sensei, narrowing his eyes at what was said in the letter. Once he finished, he balled it up and tossed it. Sensei, how could you let Danzo do this? I hope he hasn't done too much damage to Naruto's seal. The Toad Sage thought with anger, now getting up from his position to leave to Konoha to see what happened to his godson. Elsewhere at a hotel. Tsunade-sama, here's a message, it's from your sensei, said a woman with black hair with a pig wearing beads and clothes. DCH, what does that old monkey want now? Said Tsunade, now opening the message, reading what was said in the message while her eyes widened, then narrowed at what was written in the letter. Shizune, pack up, we're going to Konoha, she growled, shocking her student. Sensei better have a good reason for summoning me back, thought Tsunade, who growled. 2 days later in Konoha, both Jiraiya and Tsunade alongside her assistant Shizune had returned to see what the Sandaime Hokage wanted and why did he send a threat message to Tsunade. You better have some excuse for threatening me, sensei, yelled Tsunade, who looked at her former sensei who was glaring at her. I will not tolerate your anger, Tsunade, I have called you and Jiraiya and it concerns your godchild. Hiruzen said with Jiraiya now speaking. What has happened to Naruto sensei? What the hell did Danzo do? Demanded Jiraiya, pissed still. Calm down, Jiraiya, and let me explain. Danzo kidnapped Naruto the moment Naruto was kicked out of the orphanage and took him away. I searched for him for 2 years, that was until I discovered Danzo took Naruto and experimented on him, Hiruzen explained with Shizune and Tsunade, widening their eyes with Jiraiya looking livid. How could you let this happen? How could you let Danzo experiment on Minato's child? Minato and Kushina would be rolling over their graves for what you let happen. Jiraiya yelled with Hiruzen looking away. I have tried to protect Naruto, Jiraiya, I have tried my best, said Hiruzen. Bullshit. If that was true then you would have never let Danzo get away with this, scowled Jiraiya. Danzo will not go unpunished. Which is why I ask you to have your spy network to find him, spoke Hiruzen. You damn right I will have my spy network look for that geezer, yelled Jiraiya with anger, with Tsunade not looking pleased. And why did you call me sensei? Tsunade exclaimed with him looking at her. I called you here for a reason, I need you to heal Naruto and check on her, the Sandaime stated with Tsunade frowning. And why can't the doctors check on her? She asked. Because she doesn't trust any doctors and she's been quite hostile towards them as well, he said, sighing and at the same time cursing Danzo for having his own private doctors to torment Naruto and experiment on her. Please Tsunade, you and Jiraiya have to take your responsibilities as Naruto's godparents, she needs you both, I tried everything in my power to protect her from the villagers' anger and hatred. I have failed Minato and Kushina. The villagers refused to give up on their hate for Naruto, pleaded the Sandaime. We will fix this, sensei. But when I get my hands on him I will be the one to kill him. Jiraiya said. No. Jiraiya, leave Danzo to me, after all he was my former teammate, it's my responsibility to deal with him, spoke the Sandaime in a hardened tone. Don't place that on yourself, this is just like what happened to Orochimaru, spoke Tsunade, with Hiruzen frowning, then looking down at the mention of his pupil turned traitor. Still, this has to be done, will you two try speaking to Naruto and check on her, spoke Hiruzen in a soft tone. We will, sensei, I will check on her seal to make sure Danzo didn't tamper with the seal, said Jiraiya with a small smile. Be careful you two. Naruto used to be cheerful and happy plus full of energy, and because of Danzo she became cold. And doesn't trust anyone, not even me, he said sadly, with them flinching as they walked out the door, leaving him alone. Please try to break the ice in Naruto's heart, Jiraiya and Tsunade pleaded Hiruzen in thought. But Naruto. Sitting on her hospital bed, glancing at the window as she began having thoughts about her imprisonment and locked in captivity by Danzo, who made her into a monster, she missed being a boy and everything, she missed her old life. But those days were over the moment Danzo had experimented on her. She swore when she gets stronger she will seek out for Danzo and kill him. She will have her revenge, and no one will deny it from her, not even the Hokage will. For years she has longed to kill him after what he did to her, now he has escaped and is no doubt hiding in exile, but don't worry because hiding won't save him from her vengeance, and that was a promise. A knock at the door alerted her as she turned towards it, seeing it open, revealing a blonde-haired woman and man with white hair. Who are you two? Naruto asked, glaring at both Tsunade and Jiraiya. The two flinched, who could only look at Naruto in shock and deep regret as Jiraiya started to talk with some courage in his voice. Hi Naruto, I'm Jiraiya of the Sannin, Toad Summoner, and is a student under the Sandaime Hokage, and this beautiful woman right here is Tsunade Senju, Jiraiya introduced, making the Senju woman form a smile. Naruto eyed the two before her as she recalled visiting the Sandaime's office and saw a picture of the old Kage and his students frowning, feeling not interested in the two. She spoke. What do you two want? She said rather coldly, making both adults wince. Such coldness, thought Tsunade sadly for her goddaughter. Damn you Danzo, damn you to hell for making her like this. Jiraiya mentally yelled in thought, really wanting to go and kill Danzo. Naruto, we want to help you, please. Jiraiya asked, seeing her look at him with less interest. I don't need any help, she said, closing her eyes. Please Naruto, I'm a healer, allow me to bring you back to strength and let Jiraiya check on your seal, said Tsunade, looking at the hybrid girl. A healer, you say? I guess it won't hurt. What I really need is food, but I'd like to be healed, Naruto said calmly. May I check on your seal, Naruto? Asked Jiraiya, who saw the girl frown and nod slightly. Tsunade began using her diagnostic jutsu, scanning and looking at Naruto, and could see that Naruto isn't hardly human anymore. Whatever Danzo experimented her with turned her into a creature of some sort. So far, she's found 3 types of dna she couldn't describe within Naruto's molecules and genes, and wondered what made her change a different sex. What amazed her was that Naruto's blood was no longer red, it was highly green and yet acidic. Jiraiya was looking over Naruto's QB seal and could see that Danzo didn't damage it or ruin it in any way. But his eyes widened, then narrowed when he saw another seal on the back of Naruto's neck, and it just wasn't any seal. It was a loyalty seal. That bastard placed the seal on her just in case she steps out of line, she has to obey him like his mindless root. He immediately rid of the seal before Danzo could activate it, he couldn't risk Naruto being turned into Danzo's puppet. Are we done or what? She asked, rather impatient. Well, you're healthy so far, and you look like you're in good condition, said Tsunade as Naruto turned towards Jiraiya. Your seal seems fine, lucky that Danzo didn't tamper with it, he said, looking at her then at Tsunade. Well, I appreciate you two for checking on me, do return to your sensei. Naruto said blankly. But Naruto, we want to stay here and talk to you, Tsunade said with worry. There's nothing to talk about, she said sarcastically. Yes there is, Naruto, we are your godparents, Jiraiya said as Naruto paused as the temperature in the room began to drop absolute zero, as the walls and ceilings started cracking, the windows shattered. As her whole room started to tremor. What did you say? She hissed. What did you say? Hissed Naruto as the ceilings and windows cracking increased and the hospital room was shaking. Upon hearing this and witnessed both Sannin gasped at the heart-wrenching and pain-filled visage upon their only goddaughter's face. It nearly brought Tsunade to tears as she gazed at Naruto's anguished appearance. Jiraiya also saw this agonized look and hastily stammered. Naruto, I know this is a shock for you and you're probably feeling hurt right now. But if you'll sit down, Tsunade-chan, and I can explain. 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 Naruto angrily shouted as the look upon her face went from being one of sorrow to now one of something much darker in nature and very feral and vicious. Her anger grew tenfold as the very hospital itself was trembling. Walls were cracking, windows were starting to shatter, the electricity was going haywire. Naruto, please calm down. Hear us out. You have every right to be angry at us. Pleaded Tsunade, trying to reason with her goddaughter. Jiraiya had a terror-stricken expression on his face, seeing how much destruction she was causing in the room. Oh, I am perfectly calm, you know what will happen once I vent off my rage. If things weren't bad enough as it is, it just got worse. Hissed Naruto, cold as ice, swinging her tail and glared hard at her godparents, feeling her inner alien telling her to lash out and kill them. This power, what is it? It's like anything I've never felt before. Thought Jiraiya in fear, as if he was in the presence of the death god or another deity. Please Naruto. We are sorry that we abandoned you. Please forgive us. Just calm down and let us explain. Jiraiya said, seeing her, piercing him with a glare that would have burned through him. And just why should I forgive you? I should outright kill you both. You are no family to me. She growled with her eyes glowing to show her rage as she flared immense power that was beginning to hurt the minds of everyone in the hospital. Aya! Screamed a nurse, clutching to her head in pain. Everyone was clutching their heads, feeling the massive pain being dealt to their brains. Itachi and Yugao fell on their knees, clutching their heads, gritting their teeth in pain. Aya! Screamed Jiraiya, holding his head with Tsunade screaming next to him, holding her head. Naruto. Please stop. Yelled Jiraiya, clutching his head. Aya! Make it stop. Make it stop, it hurts my head, yelled a doctor as his head exploded in a gory way with blood and brain matter splattered everywhere. Other nurses and doctors felt their heads explode as their bodies fell limp. While some were internally losing blood leaking out of their eyes and ears as they fell limp dead. Some of them just exploded in gory fashion, or being sliced or feeling their windpipes crushed. Naruto, in her rage, continued to flare her power, nearly killing not just the hospital staff but the patients too. Naruto, please listen. We want to make things right. Please. Calm down. We are sorry that we abandoned you, and we are sorry that you are very hurt. Just please stop what you are doing and calm down, we can talk this over. Reasoned Tsunade, trying to save both her and Jiraiya's lives before their heads explode too. Naruto paused, glaring at the two of them in hate as she ceased her power. Speak now before I change my mind. Naruto hissed coldly at them, seeing them get up, wincing in pain. We are so sorry, Naruto, we are sorry that we weren't there for you. You see, the reason I left was because your mother Uzumaki Kushina and your father Minato Namikaze died on the night of the QB attack. I let my sorrow and grief make me feel weak, and I left the village with my student Shizune. I didn't have it in me at the time to raise you in the state I was in. Explained Tsunade, with Naruto narrowing her eyes at the mention of her dead parents. It seemed Asande Ami lied to her about her family, all the more reason to vent her anger out on him. And I left because I was in grief of the loss of your father, Naruto. Sarutobi-sensei said I should go out and run my spy network and hunt down my traitor of a teammate Orochimaru. I wanted to look after you for your father's sake, but sensei said he would handle it. Explained Jiraiya, this time with sadness, hoping she would understand both he and Tsunade's reasoning for not being there for her when she was a boy. She eyed them both, searching for lies, looking deep into them, only to find out that they are at least telling the truth, but she wasn't going to accept them as her godparents. With a scoff, she lowered her power down and turned away from them. Get out. She said, shocking them. Wait, Naruto. Please, won't you talk to us? Give Jiraiya and I a chance to explain. Tsunade frantically pleaded with all of her remaining strength. Naruto shifted her head over her shoulder and coldly stated. I have nothing to say to either one of you, and nothing I want to hear from you right now. Get out. Tsunade looked heartbroken, while Jiraiya looked completely saddened. The two Sannin left their goddaughter's room. Just what the hell did Danzo turn her into? Thought Jiraiya, looking at her room as he and Tsunade left the hospital. Hokage office. Hiruzen let out a sad sigh as he read the paperwork regarding the hospital incident with Naruto. How many are dead? He asked, looking at Itachi and Yugao with Jiraiya and Tsunade in the room with him. 23 hospital staff members dead, 50 patients died, some were adults, children and elders. Said Itachi with grim in his voice. Hiruzen could only look down. Sensei, what are we going to do? Asked Jiraiya, hoping they could do something to warm and restore Naruto back. I don't know, Jiraiya, I don't know, if only Kami could help us. Admitted Hiruzen, folding his hands, trying to think. Damn Danzo, this is all his fault. We can never fix Naruto into what she used to be. So much hatred in her heart and soul. Minato and Kushina would be rolling in their graves right now if they knew of this. Growled Tsunade, wanting to go out and kill that damn warhawk. Just what did he turn Naruto into? She's far from normal. That power she unleashed, it was so immense that it was attacking our minds, Jiraiya questioned. I am not sure what he turned her into, but we must take precautions. We can't allow her to vent off her anger at the villagers for the crimes they committed against her when she was a boy. She won't hesitate to kill them without remorse, Hiruzen stated. We have to keep her calm, sensei. You must punish those who committed crimes against her before she does. I can see it in her eyes that she wants vengeance on those who wronged her, and to extent, her vengeance is mostly aimed at Danzo. She will not rest until she kills him, Jiraiya suggested, with Hiruzen considering this idea. Very well, it seems I will have to inform the council about this and tell the clan heads that Naruto will enroll in the academy with their heirs and give them a warning to them and to warn their children to not provoke Naruto in any way or form. She said it herself, she won't be responsible for those who dare cross her path, she will either brutally injure them or kill them. Hiruzen stated, seeing his two students have a flash of worry on their faces. Sensei, how are we going to gain Naruto's trust? Asked Tsunade, really wanting to fix the bridge between her goddaughter. Do nothing for now, just wait it out for a week and we will see what happens. Tomorrow she will start living in the Forest of Death as her home, her third bodyguard Enko knows that place better than anyone. Hiruzen said, seeing both San and Sai. They didn't know what to do, they are clearly out of options to help and gain Naruto's trust or even melt the ice within Naruto's heart. If only Minato and Kushina were here to restore this, but that is not possible, it's all on them now to handle this. With Naruto now sitting in her destroyed hospital room, she glared out at her broken window, with her eyes glowing slightly and hissing, swinging her tail, coiling it around her. Forest of Death. Naruto has finally been discharged from the hospital as she is led to the Forest of Death by Anko Madarashi, along with Nico and Weasel flanking beside her. These three chosen shinobi and Kunoichi are hand-picked by Hiruzen to be Naruto's full-time bodyguards. No villager has seen her yet, thankfully. Now at the entrance she turned towards her three bodyguards, who couldn't help but flinch at her stare as she turned her attention on the entrance and went inside. Now inside the Forest of Death, which she calls home, she started running to the deepest part of the forest and jumped on big tall trees, climbing them and jumping from branch to branch, looking for her old territory she claimed. Once she made it, she looked straight at a giant cavern big enough for her and to live at, only for it to be claimed by a pack of wolves. Hissing slightly that these wolves had taken her former territory, she jumped down and attacked them to reclaim her chosen area. The wolves, even in their own numbers and pack, they hardly couldn't put up much of a fight with Naruto as she killed some of them with her telepathic powers, impaled them with her tail, flicked her long sharp tongue, slicing them in half. Sharp dark blades came out of her wrists as she started chopping them, butchering them. They were no match for her. The lesser wolves who attempted to fight her decided to tuck their tails and make a run for it, knowing that she was out of their league and is very superior. That frightened them. Seeing as just the small remainder of wolves ran away, she let them go since she put them in their place. Now walking past the dead wolves she massacred, she entered back into her old cavern and relaxed in her old home, having so much on her mind. She must train harder in order for her to have her revenge upon Danzo and all of his root, who turned her into a monster. She has to change her name since she started to drift asleep. Maybe later on when she gets up she will go hunting like how she used to. Naruto's mindscape. Now waking up in her mind, she looks around, noticing a giant red cage and 4 figures standing by the cage. Walking towards them, she had a good look at the figures. "Well ladies, it seems our host is finally here," said a woman with dreadlocks and bone-like wings. "Who are you?" Naruto asked, looking at the 4 women in front of her and giant fox in the cage. "Allow us to introduce ourselves, Naruto. My name is Sarah Kerrigan." The woman with blonde hair is Sil, and the Redeed standing by her is Hathor, and the tall black-clad creature is Queen Xenomorph. Introduced Sarah, with Sil and Hathor waving their hands. "And I am the QB, my container," said the giant fox. Naruto looked up at the giant fox and the women before her. "Pleasure meeting you. How is it you all are in my mind?" Naruto asked, looking at Sarah. "The one named Danzo, as you call him, injected our genes inside of you. We were reborn within your cells and body. We are a part of the seal and been in a deep sleep for 2 years. Hathor came here late after you woke up from your coma," Sarah explained as Naruto listened. "So because that old bastard stolen your genes and injected them inside of me, which is why I am like this," Naruto said, balling her fists in anger. "Yes, the old fool pretty much did that. Do you have any idea on what you are?" asked Sarah, seeing Naruto shake her head. "No, but I know I am far from human." Naruto replied. "You are alien, Naruto. But a much stronger alien combined with our genes," Sarah said. "So all of you are aliens?" she asked, seeing them nod. "Yes. I am a primal Zerg. I am the Queen of Blades," proclaimed Sarah. "I am a Xenomorph," a Queen Xenomorph spoken. Queen Xenomorph using her mind to talk. "I am a species," Sil said. "I am a Gold Queen," Hathor said last. Naruto could only stare blankly. She wasn't just one species of alien, she had all 4 different species within her, which makes her a possible perfect hybrid. "So now that I know what I am, what is your purpose here for me?" Naruto asked as the four femme fatale alien beauties exchanged glances at one another. Our purposes is to help you with your inner alien instincts, train you to be the perfect alien empress, and more importantly help you receive your vengeance on the old fool Danzo. Answered Sarah since she is the leader of the three aliens behind her and speaks for them. I am most interested in gaining my revenge, Naruto said, making her new alien mother smile. We will help you become the dominant empress and goddess to these Tori. Hathor said with a vindictive smile. Like Hathor said, we will help you become something much greater. Answer me this, Naruto, do you trust the Sandaime Hokage? And those other two Terrans who wasn't there for you? Said Sarah glancing at her daughter. Of course not. I trust no one anymore, I trust you, my mothers and the QB. She said, making all four of them smile, including the QB. But it's settled, we all will help Naruto and mold her into the perfect alien empress, spoken Sarah, her alien friends now agreeing. Since we are making her into an empress, every empress needs slaves and servants. Even soldiers loyal to her. Hathor suggested with Queen Xenomorph and Sarah nodding in agreement. She will need Jaffa, Hathor stated. She will need drones, she will need a powerful strong hive, Queen Xenomorph said. She will need Zerg, Sarah now said. And children of her own, added Sil. Naruto smiled darkly at that. So when do we get started? Asked Naruto. Once you go to the academy your training will intensify. Said Sarah, making Naruto nod. From this day forward my name will go by Naruko Namikaze Uzumaki, the future alien empress and goddess. Proclaimed Naruko. Now that she has finally came to terms with her now alien mothers, she has renounced her humanity and renounced her former humankind. Look out, elemental nations, Danzo and all who get in her way, because a new entity and supreme species is going to claim the world as hers. Even how her mothers told her she will need slaves, servants, soldiers, a hive, and potential mates. She already has her 3 bodyguards the Sandaime given her, with a wicked dark smirk, she knew those 3 will be perfect Jaffa or servants. Weasel could be her first prime. Anko and Nico could be her servants and Jaffa. She just needs slaves and servants. Once she graduated from the Shinobi Academy she will begin her plan to convert those 3 only loyal to her, or she could do it early. She has a lot to accomplish. As Alien Empress. Council Chamber. Are you out of your mind, Hiruzen, you are letting her enter the academy? Said Kaharu with edge on her voice as the clan heads, Civilian Council and Shinobi Council shuddered in fear. She must attend to the academy to learn what it is like to be a Kunoichi of Konoha. My decision is final. The Sandaime said, glaring at his teammate and the rest of the council. Hokage-sama. She will scare the kids. Worse, give them nightmares. Protested a civilian merchant. Hokage-sama, please don't send the thing. In the academy. Said another civilian counselor, with everyone else now protesting and is against the idea of letting Naruko in the academy with children. The reason they are afraid and frightened of this idea is because the Sandaime had to tell them about the hospital incident. Silence. She will go to the academy, my word is final. This will go to one of you in this chamber. Naruto is not the same as before and not as nice as she used to be. Clan heads, be sure to tell your clan heirs not to provoke Naruto in any way, if so she will not hesitate to hurt them, same goes for anyone else who has children. Hiruzen warned as the clan heads nodded slightly but also sweated in fear. Hyugaku looked livid at this. And another thing that must be discussed, those who have wronged Naruto in any way will be severely punished, depending on what crimes they did to her when she was a boy. He said, seeing both his teammates and the civilian council pale. Hiruzen, you can't be serious, Hamura said, who looked shocked. I am dead serious. It is because of all of you idiots that you can't tell the difference between a kunai and a scroll. Heed my warning. Because if so Naruto will not hesitate to maim you, injure you or worse even kill you. Not even I can get her to see reason or talk her into not killing anyone. Hiruzen replied with authority in his tone. Meeting is dismissed. Starting tomorrow she is going to the academy, remember to warn your children to not provoke her, said Hiruzen as he left the council chamber, leaving everyone in their thoughts about Naruto. Hokage office. Having told his meeting he glanced up at his 2 students. Jiraiya is busy looking at the file Danzo had documented on Naruto, glaring at it seeing it was labeled as Project Empress. Tsunade was looking at Naruto's medical records. With Shizune going through them too. That son of a bitch. He injected an unknown serum into Naruto that practically turned her into what she is. I can't make out on what type of serum did he use, but I know for sure that the serum he used contained 4 unknown mystery bloodlines and genes, which seems like Orochimaru's handiwork, but in comparison. Tsunade cursed. It's unreal about her blood changed, Tsunade-sama, it's no longer red like ours, it's green and acidic. Just where did Danzo get the serum from? Surely he didn't make it. Shizune said. If my hunch is right, my guess could be from Orochimaru, with no doubt that Orochimaru has been dead set on gaining immortality and has been blood splicing genes before he went rogue," said Jiraiya with a serious look on his face. It could be possible that Danzo probably confiscated the serum from Orochimaru's old laboratory after he went rogue and kept it for himself and experimented on poor unfortunate children. Hiruzen now said, clenching his fists in anger about those poor orphans and children who fell victim to Danzo's experiment. And from the looks of this experiment has killed their hosts and the children, their bodies probably couldn't handle the intense pain and mutation. Which I feel sorry for. Jiraiya said, having a sad look. The serum itself has rejected those that Danzo used to be tested, yet it didn't reject Naruto. Tsunade added in. I see reports that even the QB itself was trying to suppress the serum within Naruto. Yet it failed because Danzo forced injected the whole serum into the seal of the QB to ensure that his experiment will be successful. Jiraiya growled, reading the documents. That bastard. Hissed Tsunade. Minato Kushina, forgive me for letting this happen to your son. Hiruzen said mentally and thought sadly. He feels as if this is his fault. He could have protected Naruto better. Had the owner of the orphanage not kicked Naruto out or even conspired with Danzo, this would have never happened. Naruto wouldn't be a girl, Naruto wouldn't be so cold-hearted and vengeful, Naruto wouldn't be some creature that he has no knowledge of. Naruto would have been just a normal boy instead of what she is now. He could tell that she no longer trusts him or even believe in him anymore, not even to her godparents. Tomorrow she goes to the academy, hopefully at least some of the kids her age should at least try to be her friend. Please at least let her have some friends that doesn't see her as a monster and try to break the ice in her heart. He's also going to have to inform the Shinobi Academy staff about her as well and not to do anything stupid to her that could cause her to harm them. Shinobi Academy. Today is the day Naruko goes to the academy, as the said hybrid empress was walking her way there flanked by her bodyguards, while ignoring the looks villagers were giving her. Before she could go, she had to wear some clothes. Naruko was now dressed in a white shirt under a black zip-up vest with black shorts on her lower half that folded over at the waist, forming an additional utility pocket at the front and a duster in the back that reached down to just above her heels, her hands sheathed in black gloves with a black armored steel plate on the back of either one. For shoes, Naruko's feet were now adorned with black open-toed sandals with low heels that were lightweight and tough enough to endure her extraordinary physical strength. Her tail is wrapped around her waist like a belt. Now stopping at the entrance of the academy, she glanced at her bodyguards, left her alone, seeing they did their job on escorting her. Now walking inside, she was going to her first classroom. Iruka and the students along with the clan heirs turned their attention to Naruko when they saw her. Izuki, who is the aide, glances at Naruko in disgust, knowing what she is. Are you Naruto? Iruka started, but she cut him off. My name is Naruko, not Naruto, Naruko Namikaze Uzumaki. She said, simply, seeing him look surprised that she is related to the Yondaime along with everyone else. Class, meet our new student Naruko Namikaze Uzumaki. He called out as she focused her eyes on all of the students in this classroom. Her eyes were on the boy who is sleeping, then on a chubby boy, next a boy with goggles on, then on a boy whose hair resembles a duck's ass, then a boy with a puppy. They would make perfect slaves and servants. She thought mentally, turning her eyes to an indigo-haired girl with no pupils in her eyes, then on a blonde-haired girl and pink-haired girl with a large forehead. All of them will bow to their empress and goddess. She said, now looking for her a seat and begin her first day in the academy. Time skip Konoha 5 years later. Forest of Death. Now at Naruko's lair. Our hybrid queen now has aged to 12 years. Standing at 5'11" in height, Naruko was the tallest girl in her age group with the body of a nearly full-grown woman. Her silky smooth pitch black hair went down to her well-rounded hips. Her skin complexion was a pale cream color and as smooth as silk to the touch. The sclera of her eyes were still pitch black and her eyes were now a slightly darker royal purple than they used to be, with black slit pupils floating in their center. Though she wasn't a full-grown woman yet, her puberty will hit soon in a few months from what her alien mother Sil had explained to her. Ah yes, her alien mothers. Over the years they raised and taught Naruko everything she needs to know about being the dominant empress and goddess. Sarah Kerrigan taught Naruko control of her telepathic powers. She also knows how to read minds. Queen Xenomorph taught Naruko of hive making and such physiology and biology of a xenomorph. Sil taught Naruko about mating and find potential mates of her choice. Aether taught Naruko and given Naruko all knowledge of gold related and technology, even told her about other gold system lords who are vile, and these system lords she mentioned was Ra, Apophis, Cronus, her son Herer, Soker, Osiris and lastly Anubis. Ra is Aether's husband and she hates her husband. She even told Naruko about the Chappie, the Stargate, which can give her access to other worlds, planets and alternate dimensions. This interested Naruko. She couldn't wait to find this Stargate and use it for travel to other worlds and claim them once she builds her own army of Jaffa. She will take Hathor's place as System Lord rank, and by doing so she will have to kill other System Lords to rise to the top, and then she will be the Empress to all gods. The first System Lord she will target is Ra, then will kill the others. She even taught Naruko how to bend the will over the male populace, meaning she has the power to control anyone of their gender into slaves loyal to her. Naruko already knows who will be her servants. Her 3 bodyguards, of course. They will be her first court of Jaffas. The one named Weasel, who is Itachi Uchiha, will be her first prime. Nico and Anko will be her Jaffa too. But she will need to birth gold larvae. Her reproduction is another thing they have discussed. She can be asexual if she wants. Meaning she can asexually give birth to xenomorph eggs and gold larvae. She's a little too young to birth xenomorph eggs because it could cause strain to her body. Now gold larvae, she can give birth to them in her young state. Because of her being a perfect hybrid with 4 different species of alien in her, she can literally give birth to 4 different species or can impregnate her choice of mates. Xenomorphs, gold larvae, Zerg hybrids and species. Her transformation hasn't awakened yet. Her mother Sarah, Xenomorph and Syl explained to her transformation will awaken after she hits puberty. She's a lethal combination of Xenomorph, primal Zerg and species in her transformation. And before you guys get to stop saying species in every sentence is because in the Species movie and saga Syl's race name is unknown, so she's called a species. During these 5 years of her freedom she has trained herself and has been learning all about what it's like to be a Kunoichi. The past 5 years she has still ignored her godparents and the Sande Ami, keeping her distance from them, since she knows she's the daughter of Uzumaki Kushina and Namikaze Minato. She did a little digging on her parents. And learned that from her mother's side of the family that she's royalty. Now how did Naruko learn of this? She once snuck in the Konoha Historical Library learning of the Uzumaki, who are known to be the greatest seals masters known to the elemental nations. What angered Naruko was that her clan was wiped out by other 3 villages known as Kumo, Iwa and Kiri. It seems she will have to swear vengeance to avenge her clan upon those 3 villages. Which it seems she will have to repopulate her clan herself, meaning she will have to go on a mating spree. She could mate with females to make a new generation of Uzumakis. They could be perfect Zerg hybrids or species hybrids. This village could be her temporary nest. From what Syl told her that normally a female species would go on a mating spree upon males of their choice, and once the mating is done, the female would kill the male on instinct after having sex, but that is only because of the predatory half in their biology. Now Naruko wasn't full-on predatory, she was only half if she has to be. Her bodyguards often taught her shinobi skills, which she is grateful for. She will convert them loyal to her today. Itachi and company arrive getting ready to escort her. Naruko-sama, it's time to go for your graduation exam. Itachi said with Nico and Anko beside him. Turning towards her 3 bodyguards, her eyes focused on Itachi as she walked towards him. I would like to say thank you, your effort shall not go unrewarded for you teaching me. She grabbed his hand, brought it close to her mouth as if she was kissing it, but wasn't. She blew a pink breath on his hand as the breath traveled through his body to his brain, causing him to freeze on the spot where it would influence him to see things her way from now on. Itachi's eyes gleamed pink slightly as he nodded to her. You are most welcome, Naruko-sama, he said to his empress now. Anko and Yugao felt a bad vibe on this, and before they could do anything, Naruko froze them in place with her telepathic powers. What's going on? I can't move. Thought Anko. What is she doing? Thought Yugao. Judging from your thoughts, you wish to know why I froze you both is because I am giving you both my gratitude for being my bodyguards. She said as she used her telepathic power to remove Yugao's mask. Naruko-sama, what are you doing to us? Asked Yugao, struggling to move her body. I am making you both my personal Jaffa guards along with Itachi as your first prime. She said simply as she took Yugao's hand and breathed a pink mist on it as it traveled through Yugao's body and mind, as the woman now finds her loyalty to the Hokage vanished and now serves her goddess Naruko. I refuse to serve you. I will serve another against my will. Anko protested with Naruko now coming towards her. You have no choice in the matter, your loyalty will lie to your goddess. Naruko said as she grabbed Anko's hand and blew her pink breath as it traveled through Anko's body and mind just like Itachi and Yugao. Anko now became loyal to Naruko and saw the girl as her goddess. Releasing her hold off them, the 2 now former Anbu and former Special Jonin are now converted as non-Jaffa until Naruko spawns gold larvae to make them into Jaffa. Kneel to your goddess. She said in a powerful booming voice as her 3 personal Jaffa guards kneeled in respect to her. As of right now, you 3 are my personal Jaffa guards. Your loyalty stays with me. Uchiha Itachi, you are my first prime. Said Naruko looking at him. I am forever honored, Naruko-sama. He said still on his kneeling position. Good, all 3 of you mere eyes. She said seeing them stand up. Let us go, it's time I graduate. Naruko said with her guards now following her. Academy. Okay class settle down I said shut up and pay attention Naruko yelled, making the class cringe at the volume of the man's voice. Naruko and Kiba held their sensitive ears at the outburst. Soon the class settled down and paid attention to the scared chunin that was their current sensei. Naruko silently coiled her tail around her body, making it look like an exotic belt. Over the years in the Shinobi Academy Naruko was hailed as a goddess and queen among those in her class. She has many admirers, some were boys who couldn't stop drooling at her and her majesty beauty, though the boys weren't the only ones who caught feelings for Naruko, girls too. Okay, now I know you're all excited about being genin, but the road isn't over yet. It's a long and rough road ahead filled with challenges and choices. Make sure to keep your head on straight and work together. Teamwork makes the dream work. Now to read off the Shinobi Kenyachi of the year, Haruka said with a faint smile. Naruko kept her usually passive yet stoic look. Shikamaru, Choji, Kiba, and few others smile. Wondering who will be the top student of the year. Seeing as of last year the Hokage stated he would be making a change to the way teams are paired and how the Shinobi Kenyachi of the year are being picked. They don't know it yet, but soon a legend will be born. Okay, Shinobi Kenyachi of the year goes to Naruko Uzumaki Haruka said with a bright smile. The reactions were delayed before a hurricane of insults or cheers were thrown around. Naruko however kept a compass look not letting some little title boost her ego. When she is already a empress and vast goddess. Nice job Naruko-chan Kiba given the hybrid queen a thumbs up. Some guys glared at Kiba, angry at the fact that he was so docile and friendly towards their dark empress. Naruko's fangirls however looked at Naruko with a lustful expression, knowing they will have to train harder to have their queen notice them. Naruko nodded in thanks to Kiba. At least the dog boy was more pleasant than a certain people and he respected Naruko as a Kenyachi she was. Kiba was no fool at the fact Naruko given off the presence and power of an alpha. He was still a beta in his clan's view and Naruko was an alpha of her clan, by law of nature you showed an alpha respect. Soon Naruko was given a pat on the back by everyone who wasn't too afraid or intimidated by the queen. Though they were still nervous around her, they knew she was strong. But they also knew if they came to her with no ill intent and not saying anything to piss her off she will let them be. Sasuke seed that Naruko is the Kenyachi of the year, Sakura seed as well while other Sasuke fangirls. Smiling once again she was victorious soon tomorrow she wondered will she have a team. Tomorrow she will find out who her teammates are. Now that class is over she is getting ready to leave. In the back of the class she failed to notice a pale boy with an emotionless stare, watch her retreating form. Danzo-sama will want to know of this. Thought the pale boy named Sai who was ordered by Danzo to keep eye on Naruko. Forest of Death. It was now nighttime as she laid in her cave sleeping that was until her nose caught a smell and it woke her up, narrowing her eyes she followed the scent and saw who was jumping from tree to tree. It was Mizuki Haruka's aide and he's holding a large scroll. Frowning she wondered where was he going. And she was going to find out. Running and climbing trees and jumping tree to tree in great speed she followed him. Mizuki turned around when he noticed her. It's that freak. He spat in disgust as he tossed the giant shuriken still her, hoping it would hit her only for her to stop it with her telepathic powers and send it back at him. He quickly avoided it as it nailed a tree as he continued to jump from branch to branch. She jumped much faster as she sped faster and clawed him from behind, which caused him to scream in pain as her dropped the scroll and fell on the ground she landed besides him staring at him. And just what do you think you are doing? Asked Naruko. Stay out of this freak. I am stealing the forbidden scroll returning it towards my master Orochimaru. Mizuki spat pulling out a kunai and tried to stab her, but she caught his arm and broke it, causing him to scream louder. Ah. You bitch. Screamed Mizuki holding his broken arm. You do know the penalty of going rogue right? She asked coolly as she approached him. You can't kill me. You have to turn me in. The Hokage wouldn't want you to he was cut off as her tail impales his chest. I don't listen to the Hokage anymore. She said in her booming voice as her tail tossed him off as he laid there with a terror-filled expression after he was impaled. Now having her eyes on the forbidden scroll she decides to take it and maybe see what's in it for her to use in the future once she's a full-fledged Kenyachi. Holding the scroll she takes it back with her to her cave, she will return in the morning to the Hokage and that she has killed Mizuki. But Naruko. Now having looked at the forbidden scroll learning new things from it that she could use for herself, she has learned the Shadow Clone Jutsu, the Great Explosion Clone Jutsu, a few Taijutsu moves and unsealed herself a weapon, a Damascus blade. A weapon that can cut through anything like a hot knife through butter. She even saw a summon scroll as she took it for herself, knowing she was not going to sign the Toad summoning contract or slug contract. The summoning contract she found was Demon Wolves. Now pleased with all she has and taken from the scroll by morning, she will return it back to the Sandaime. as she stared at the dead body of Mizuki. Looking away in disgust, she lays down, heading to sleep. Morning, Hokage Tower. Naruko dropped the head of Mizuki on the Sandaimi's desk, who winced at the brutally she did to him. She even given him back the forbidden scroll. Wincing more as he stared at her emotionless stare. "You have done a great service, Naru," he started, but she cut him off. "Naruko, my name is Naruko." She corrected him. "Alright, Naruko. You have done us a great service of stopping the traitor Mizuki, but was it necessary to kill him?" he asked as her expression has not changed. "He broke the law, so I had a right to kill him," she answered in her monotone. "Very well, is that all?" he asked. "I have a request to make." She spoke. "What is it?" he wondered. "Don't put me on a team, I prefer working alone," she said sternly. "But Naruko, you need a sensei and teammates to bond with," he argued. "I don't need a sensei, Itachi, Uchiha, Anko and Yugao all taught me a few shinobi basics and all their knowledge of what it's like to be a kunoichi, and I most definitely do not need any teammates." She shot back, slightly glaring at the old man. "I want to be the first genin without a sensei or team. Scratch that, I believe special genin is the proper rank," she said, throwing him off guard there. "My request will not be denied." She glared as he sighed and stared at her. "Very well. I will inform Aruka of your position," he said, seeing her have a satisfied look. "Then we are done here," she said, turning and walking away, leaving his office. A sad sigh escaped the old Kage's mouth. "I take it you heard everything, right, Jiraiya?" he said as the Toad Sage came in the window. "Yeah, so this is the first time she's spoken to you. She's ignored us for 5 years," Jiraiya said sadly. "In due time, Jiraiya, hopefully she'll come around and try to trust you two again," Hiruzen said, making the Toad Sage frown and look at his sensei. "And if she doesn't?" he questioned. The old Kage sighed. "Then I'm afraid Naruko no longer sees you and Tsunade as her godparents, she considers you both as strangers, she still doesn't trust me," Hiruzen said, blowing smoke from his pipe. The Toad Sage looked down, he didn't want to accept that, he has to try and gain Naruko's trust again. He can't give up. He and Tsunade must try harder to gain her trust and fix their relationship for both Minato's and Kushina's sake. But Naruko. Now heading home to the Forest of Death, Naruko grinned. She knew her rank and title will be addressed by Aruka. She was now officially a lone genin, that way she can as she pleases, no teammates to get in her way or hold her back. No sensei to command her, because technically she was her own sensei in a way. If she needs help, she has her personal Jaffa guards. Once she goes on a mission, she will seek out the ancient Stargater alien Mother Hathor told her about, that way she can begin her scheme and rise of her empire. By gaining entrance to another world or planet, she will lure away other Jaffa guards from other system lords, and the first system lord she will seek out is Ra and take his spot. Then she will go after the other system lords and dethrone them while absorbing their armies into her empire. Apophis is next after that, then a few other system lords. She will have to bring her personal Jaffa guards with her when she goes on her own mission of finding Ra and kill him. She still has to find slaves and lovers. Once she hits puberty, she will have to go on a mating spree to revive her fallen clan. No one will get in her way. It was time that the elemental nations receive a wake-up call to see her as their goddess. Forest of Death. Now in her home, former home cause, she plans on heading to Yuzu in search of the Stargate to ready her grand plan to rule everything. Her Jaffa guard are currently in their free time, she does not need to call them yet. She is roasting fish at her cave. The creatures and beasts still fear her. Once she sets foot in the Forest of Death, they instantly go running and hiding in fear of her. Her roasted fish is ready as she starts eating it. She has to start eating more portions to store some fat in her body once she matures. After finishing eating, she would sleep. 2 weeks later, Hokage Tower. "You want me to what?" asked Naruko, looking at the Sandaime. "Team 7 is in need of assistance, and I was hoping you would like to take part in helping them," Hiruzen asked, looking at Naruko, who thought about this. "This seems like a perfect opportunity to leave the village and start my grand plan," thought Naruko with a hidden wicked smile that the Sandaime couldn't see. "And where are they?" asked Naruko. "They are in a village and country called Wave, currently escorting the bridge builder named Tazuna. They were attacked by Zabuza Mamichi and are requesting backup," Hiruzen explained, with Naruko raising a brow and was listening. This could be a great idea for her to leave the village as she pleases. "Very well. I will go there. Let me pack up and leave the village in a half hour," Naruko says, turning away and leaving. The Sandaime watched her. Little did he knew that she was going to leave the village for a while. But Naruko. Having sealed her stuff in a scroll, Naruko had thought about something. On this quest, she has her Jaffa, she is in need of a healer in her party. Her so-called godmother Tsunade has an apprentice named Shizune. The black-haired woman could be useful for her party. She would then send a mental message to her 3 Jaffa. "Pack up your things, we are going to be leaving this village and world for a while," Naruko says. Itachi along with Anko and Yugao heard her message, nodded and began packing up. Naruko would make a quick visit to find Shizune. But Shizune. Now on break from the Konoha hospital, she went out to get lunch. "Hello, are you Shizune?" spoke Naruko as Shizune nearly jumped seeing Naruko behind her. "Naruko? What is it you want?" asked Shizune. "I require your services to join me and my party on my conquest," Naruko says with her looking confused. "Conquest? I cannot go with you, I have to help Tsunade-sama at the Konoha hospital." While Naruko frowned. "Perhaps you thought I was making a request. Let me make myself very clear." Naruko would grab Shizune's hand and breathed a pink breath as it would snake its way into Shizune, making her see Naruko's ways of things. "When will we depart, Naruko-sama?" Shizune says looking at her new mistress. "Very soon, pack up and bring what's necessary, don't let Tsunade know you are leaving," Naruko says. "As you wish, Naruko-sama." Shizune said with her mind altered and to follow and obey her new mistress. Half-hour later. Naruko would be at the border waiting for her party. All 4 of her party members appeared. "Let us go, we are heading to Wave first. Then we go to our destination and finding the Stargate," Naruko says as she and her party decides to go to Wave. Wave days later. Naruko and her company made it, all of them were wearing cloaks and hoods. Itachi, Yugao and Anko wore Anbu masks to hide their identities. "What do you plan to do, Naruko-sama?" asked Itachi, her first prime. "You lot remain hidden until I give out orders, they are expecting me alone," Naruko says as they all nodded and decided to find themselves a safe house to hide at until their mistress gave them orders. She went to Tazuna's house and knocked on the door, in which he did, only to be surprised to see Naruko. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am the backup they requested," she replied as Kakashi made himself known along with the rest of Team 7, which consisted of Sasuke, Sakura and Sai. The silver-haired Jonin didn't like the idea that Naruko had no team or sensei with her, he didn't understand why the Hokage allowed this. "Well, what is the situation?" she asked looking at him as he began telling her of their encounters with the demon brothers and Zabuza, while explaining that Zabuza has an accomplice that wears a Kiri hunter mask. Absorbing the information, she would decide to seek out this Zabuza after hearing Kakashi that the man is Demon of the Mist and member of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist. Perfect. He could be another possible recruit along with this accomplice. As she absorbed information about Geto, she will see to it that he will die by her tail. "Very well, I'll help any way I can," said Naruko. "What are you doing here, freak?" Sakura spat looking at Naruko with distaste. "The Hokage sent me here as help," she replied with a glare. "We don't need your help here, we can handle this mission ourselves," Sasuke added glaring at Naruko, who glared at him also. No asked you. Insect. Spoken Naruko in a harsh tone. "Hey, don't call Sasuke-kun an insect, you freak," yelled Sakura, getting ready to bop Naruko's head, only for the girl to catch the pinkette's hand and hissed at the girl, scaring her. "Back down, whelp," Naruko growled, shoving Sakura to the ground. Izuna and his family flinched at the behavior Naruko was showing and saw the girl getting ready to leave. "Where are you going?" "We have room for you to sleep at," said Tsunami, with Naruko interrupting her. "That won't be necessary, I'll be in the forest as my camp," answered Naruko, who left, leaving them stunned. Now alone in the forest, she decided it was time to hunt Geto and his goons. "Itachi and Anko, you two go after Zabuza and his accomplice, leave Geto to me," Naruko says, using her mind to tell them. "I want them both alive, they will be potential recruits to my court," Naruko says. "We'll carry out your order, Naruko-sama," replied Itachi as he and Anko decides to go hunt down both of them and capture them alive. Naruko went into hunting mode and crept into the shadows as she went to hunt for one of Geto's thugs for her to lead his location. She would remain in the shadows in the bushes watching the village and see if she could spot any of Geto's thugs. Instead, she would have to listen to their minds and figure out where they are, knowing they have to be hiding in the village. Closing her eyes as she tries to read the many minds of the villagers and to seek out the thugs. "I hope those Konoha shinobi help us from Geto," she heard a sad villager. "So poor, Geto's thugs always steal from us," spoke another villager, reading their thoughts. "Hell yeah. Geto-sama is going to pay us handsomely once we backstab the Demon of the Mist, once he deals with those Konoha shinobi. Can't wait to have money. We even have the daimyo samurais working with us since they overthrown him and killed him," thought a happy thug. Naruko smiled cruelly as she now found her thug and decided to go towards his location. He seemed to be heading into an alleyway. The thug was happy, flipping his knife while humming as he continued to walk, minding his business. That was until he heard the sound of hissing. Feeling cold sweat run down his face. He could have sworn he had heard a snake. He gripped his knife, looking scared, shaking slightly. The hissing continued. "Boy. Who's there? Show yourself," he said, very frightened. The hissing became louder. Looking very afraid, he was close to shitting himself as he frantically turned around looking everywhere for the source of that sound. He then heard a garbage can get knocked over, which terrified him. "God damn it, where are you, cut the shit?" He screamed into the darkness with his hands shaking, holding his knife. He then heard the hissing again, and this time it sounded very close. He whipped around, and before he could react, Naruko spat acid out of her mouth at his face, which melted half his face, as he let out a loud scream that echoed throughout the village. Screaming, he dropped his knife, clutching onto his face that was melted. She grabbed him by the face and dragged him further into darkness as he continues to scream for his life. She had interrogated him, and he squealed, telling her the whereabouts of all of Gato's thugs and where was the man himself, as he pleaded to let her go and don't kill him. However, she was not willing to let him go alive. She forced open his mouth and spat a stream of acid into him, as you could hear his insides melt from the inside, killing him as he reduced as a skeleton. As she ran off to go to the hideouts of Gato's thugs and kill them. Hideouts. Sort of in their own private club and bar, as they drank, sake, smoked. Even some of the samurai were there having a blast. Only 30 of them were present, the rest are elsewhere in other hideouts. That was until their power had been cut. "What the hell happened?" asked a barkeep. "Check the power, check and see if a fuse blew," said a samurai. And in before a thug could try opening the door, only to find out that it won't budge, as if something was blocking it. "What, the door is stuck," said a thug. "The windows were locked, same with the doors." They tensed and instantly pulled out their weapons in fear of something here. Naruko was above them on the ceiling, looking down at them as she hissed lowly. One thug heard it and slowly looked up, seeing her as he pointed up, and screamed loud enough for everyone to see what he's pointing at as she leaped down and began the carnage. The first 3 she killed got skewed by her tail as she spat globs of acid out of her mouth, melting them as they let out blood-curdling screams. Every thug and samurai had tried fighting Naruko, but she was quicker. She stabbed, she melted, she choked, rips them to shreds, biting their faces off and arms, even used her mental powers to make their heads explode in a gory way with brain matter everywhere. Others had lost the will to fight and tried to escape with their lives, only for them to be massacred brutally. One thug had broke the window with a chair and ran like hell, leaving the rest of his friends and comrades to suffer. He ran and ran screaming. Help me, there is a monster. Help me someone." He cried in fear, scared out of his mind. He dared to look back as he widened his eyes in fear, seeing Naruko pursue him. He tripped over a tree root and fell as he got up and tried to run, only to scream in fear when he saw Naruko pounce on him with her fangs and claws ready to rip him. Nuo, was his last screams that had echoed throughout wave as the villagers who heard were in fear and rushed into their homes. Kakashi and the others winced and flinched hearing that scream. Sakura had a look of terror. "Kakashi-sensei, what's going on?" she asked, very worried. "I do not know, Sakura," he answered with slight fear on his face. Sasuke was a little pale too. Izuna and his family had worried looks. Sai remained with an emotionless look, but on the inside he felt sudden fear for the first time. And a Rutanin like him was not supposed to have emotions or fear. But Naruko. Now still on the hunt and move for Gato, she has tracked his location by following the thugs who report to him, as she saw that he is currently on board of a yacht. She would dive in the water and swim there. Swimming to the back of the yacht, she got up over the rail and looked around, smelling thugs and samurais. There appears to be more than one. She intends to massacre them. She also wishes to keep the yacht intact to use as a vessel to reach Yuzu. By doing so, she will have to kill these vermin along with Gato. She made 2 shadow clones to go kill all the thugs while she gets Gato. And so the carnage began, as both her clones brutally killed the thugs. Gato, who heard the commotion, decided to see what was going on, only for him to get knocked into the wall as the door opened, revealing Naruko. "Who are you?" he said with wide eyes. "I am your death, Gato," she hissed, walking slowly to him with him sweating. Please. Someone help me please," screamed Gato, backing into a corner scared for his life. "No help will come for you, all of your thugs out there are being killed as we speak," as she continued to walk towards him, slowly liking his fear. As he looked completely horrified. "Please don't kill me. I'll do anything. Just please don't kill me. I'll pay you. I'll give you anything you desire. Just don't kill me," pleaded Gato as she grabbed him by the throat and brought her face close to his as his sweat increased. "You have nothing I want. However, you have what the people of Wave want," said Naruko with him wincing. "Like what?" said Gato. "Money, buckets of it. I know you are a businessman and has a fortune of money, and you are going to hand it over to them, all of it," Naruko said with him widening his eyes. "No. I can't give away all my money to the ARG," he yelped when she stabbed her single claw into his shoulder, dislocating it. "If you won't do that, then journey to hell," Naruko said as she began to rip his head clean off. The thugs who which consisted 10 were on their knees pleading as Naruko appeared. Beto is no more, the rest of you will hand over all his money to the people of Wave along with his head. Naruko hissed as they obeyed her, instantly not wanting to die at her hands and would do as told. The crew on the ship, the captain and his crew were spared. She wanted them to take her and her party to the island of Yuzu. Now all she would have to do is see if Itachi and Anko caught Zabuza and his accomplice. Itachi and Anko, have the two of you complete your task. She sent a mental message to their minds. Yes, we have, my mistress, we are currently at the safe house awaiting for you. Anko replied to her mistress. Good work. I will be there shortly. Naruko says as she dived in the water and swam to the land to find her court and meet Zabuza and his partner. But Kakashi. Kakashi had decided to go investigate while leaving his students at Izuna's house. His dog Pikun was with him. The dog was following the scent of Naruko. As he had a slight look of disgust, the scent of blood was heavy and thick. The scent led them to a bar of some sorts which looked like it was attacked. Kakashi looked green at the sight before him. So many dead bodies. She did all of this. These men looked to be Gato's thugs, judging from the weapons they carried, also saw samurai here. So much death here. It frightened Kakashi that Naruko may turn her anger and rage over the villagers of Konoha if they decide to provoke her. He will have to report this to the Hokage. Ami, just what the hell did Danzo do to make her like this? He was there when the Sandai Ami and his trusted Anbu had stormed through Danzo's base in search of Naruto. He was shocked when he first saw how Naruto's gender was changed to a female. He is quite aware that Naruko desires vengeance on the man who turned her into a creature that no one has no knowledge of, but he wasn't aware that she's detaching her humanity to become the very creature she is and deems those a threat to her. She has no trust for no one. Jiraiya and Tsunade tried everything to make amends and try to reconnect with her, only for her to outcast them and see them as strangers and not her godparents. Had Danzo not experimented on Naruto, Naruko would not exist. It was as if Naruto Uzumaki is dead and reborn as Naruko. Safe house. Itachi, Yugao and Anko are currently guarding Zabuza and Haku. It happened like this. Haku was busy tending to Zabuza's wounds. That was until Itachi and Anko barged in and straight up attacked them. Haku had been restrained by Anko's snakes, while Itachi had put Zabuza in his Tsukiyomi, knocking him out. They were both captured like that. Shizune would be out getting herbs to bring with her on their journey. Naruko would appear as all three of her Jaffa bowed to her. She would make a hand gesture for them to rise. Zabuza and Haku looked shocked at her appearance. What the hell are you? Zabuza asked. I am Naruko Namikaze Uzumaki, I am your goddess. I heard so much about you, demon of the mist. Introduced Naruko with him and Haku looking confused. Goddess? You don't look like one, goddesses don't have tails. Zabuza said as she chuckled. Appearances can be deceiving. You'll soon find me attractive once I mature. Naruko said, looking at them. What do you want with us? Asked Haku. What I want is for the two of you to join me on my conquest and become members of my court. I plan to become a supreme empress. Naruko says. And if we refuse? Dared Zabuza, making her look amused. You will join me either way. I wish not to kill someone as talented as they say you are, Zabuza. You no longer work for that worm Gato, who is disposed of. Naruko says, shocking both of them. You killed the little snob? He questioned, seeing her nod. That's right, you both work for me now. Naruko says. As if I will join you? Said Zabuza. I will not join either. Shouted Haku. Both of you will serve your goddess. Naruko says in a deep voice, with her eyes glowing as she did a blow kiss motion and blew a pink breath at both Zabuza and Haku, who inhaled her breath and instantly felt the need to serve Naruko. I apologize, your highness. We forever will follow you. Zabuza said, with Haku nodding. Good. All of you go to Gato's yacht, make sure you tell Shizune. Naruko says, turning. Where are you going, mistress? Asked Yugao. I'm going to have a small chat with a root spy that is in Team 7. Naruko said, leaving. Izuna's house. Sai was upstairs writing a report for Danzo-sama. That was until he heard the window opened yet saw nothing. He assumed it was the wind. He closed it, and before he could turn around, a hand grabbed him by the throat and slammed him up against the wall. Naruko Uzumaki pinned him there with a chilling smile on her face, as if she was a cat that caught a mouse. Hello, Sai, or should I say Danzo's little spy. Naruko said with a smile. I don't know what you are talking about, he started saying, only for her to punch him in the ribs, making him grunt in pain. Don't bother lying to me. I smell him all over you, you reek of him. I noticed it the moment you first set foot in the academy when I joined. Only reason I didn't kill you where you stood was because I know who you work for. Naruko hissed, tightening her grip on his neck. I'm glad he sent you. I was beginning to think he'd forgotten about his favorite weapon, as he calls me. And since you report to him, I have a personal message for him. Tell him that his empress is finally free from the shackles he kept on me and that when we meet, I will have my revenge and will rip his intestines out strangling him with them, then I'll rip him apart piece by piece and will have his head as trophy. Be sure he gets the message," said Naruko as she dropped him letting him breathe for air. "Be grateful that I don't expose you to the Konoha shinobi. Or that I didn't kill you," said Naruko says leaving him stunned. Wave morning. It was morning as Kakashi and Team 7 went to the Wave Plaza, seeing a commotion groups of the people cheering and holding bags of money. When they got close enough they saw the head of Geto on a pike in front of a huge cart of money. Something did not add up. Geto killed. By whom? Then he suspected that it was Naruko who did it. Then when he looked in the cart he saw something else that made him raise red flags in his head. He saw 5 Konoha headbands in there with a note as he picked it up and reading it. Only for his eye to widen in great lengths. "Oh no!" exclaimed Kakashi as he decided to run off and find Naruko, hoping the letter wasn't true that she was leaving. He and his dog Summons were quickly onto their tracks which led them to a dead end. By the lake, which means he was too late. Naruko Uzumaki and her party had left that night. He must report this to the Hokage. How could he have been so careless? With Naruko and company. At last, we are finally here. To my mother's homeland, which will be revived when I gather the power and necessary means to get it revived in its glory. First things first. We will rest here and then later we will find the Stargate," Naruko says with her party nodding. The next hour later. Naruko would be resting someplace. Little did she know, something started to shift out of her skin as resin-made substance came out of her skin and it dragged her up a tree branch forming into a cocoon of some sorts. She was beginning to evolve, she was beginning to become mature. As the transformation process would now begin. In a few hours she's no longer a child, she will be adult. Naruko is now maturing in her cocoon which was taking all day, transforming her into the most feared and powerful ultimate hybrid that Danzo had created and turned. The cocoon had started to grow. Grow much larger, it stood 8 feet tall. Her Jaffa and court would wait for her until she is out of her cocoon. In the next few hours her cocoon was shaking slightly. And, obsidian skin tail bearing a large black and razor-sharp bone-like blade at the end of it, forced its way out of the cocoon, cutting it open. An 8-foot figure walked out of the cocoon covered in slime. Pale skin, long hair that reached to her wide curvy hips with black, blonde and red streaks in the hair. Very large breasts like Tsunade's and a firm heart-shaped ass, her tail was double-length now taller than her 8-foot body. Her nails were black and pointed like claws. Even her feet were. She opened her eyes which remained black with slits, she was glowing with power. Having looked at herself she went to the nearest look to get a look at her now adult appearance and that she was no longer a child. Now pleased with her look she can finally do what her mothers would want her to do, her mothers have merged with her during the transformation. She can finally create herself a hive, create gold larvae, and even have a baby or have sex with a potential female mate, but she too wants to carry a child from a male partner and she wants her first heir. And since she's part xenomorph she can asexually give birth. And the xenomorphs are her children in a way and she will love them like any mother should. Mother. That word is something she will become much sooner. She'll love all of her children. She has no family to call on herself, both her biological parents are dead. Her godparents neglected her and were never there for her, she hated them with passion and never wants anything to do with them anymore to her. They are just strangers, nothing more. As for the Sandaime she had little trust and faith in him, he hasn't done much. He should have searched harder for her when she was a boy and kidnapped by Danzo's route to be experimented on. The only parental figures she'll ever accept is her alien mothers and QB. And she was going to make them proud by becoming what they wanted her to be. But all of that can wait for the time being. Now walking into the forest she decides to look for food, then go find her Jaffa and court so that they could find the Stargate and be on their way to her conquest in her rise to power of becoming the perfect alien goddess and empress known to the universe and mankind. All of mankind will submit to her or they die. What remained of her humanity is practically gone or probably buried under in darkness and is seeking vengeance on the one who made her this way. Having to endure so much torture, so much experiments when she was held captive by Danzo, and because of everything she went through, Danzo had created a monster, a vengeful alien hybrid hellbent on vengeance, and wants to make everyone suffer, just as she had suffered even when she was a boy. And now thanks to Danzo, Naruko is going to get her wish and revenge. Just you wait, Danzo. When I return I will find you and kill you. Then the elemental nations will bow to me as their empress and goddess, she says in a now mature voice. And her adult voice is as from Avatar. Konoha at the moment. What? What do you mean she's gone? Yelled the Sandaime looking at Kakashi in shock as Jiraiya was also present looking shocked too, seeing the Jonin return with 5 other headbands that belonged to some leaf shinobi. As the Jonin told the report of the wave mission. It wasn't long until Tsunade barged in. "Sensei. I can't find Shizune. Where is she?" Tsunade asked, looking worried. "She hasn't seen her apprentice in days or hours." That was until he gave her answer. "She's gone with Naruko. I assume Itachi, Anko and Yugao went with her as well," he answered, pinching the bridge of his nose. "What? Naruko's gone too? Where?" Tsunade demanded. "We don't know, and wherever she is, it's out of our hands to find her. She could be anywhere," he said with a sigh. Of all things, she had to leave. She waited for this moment. Spoke Jiraiya, making them turn to him, waiting for him to elaborate. The moment she was given a chance to go on a mission, she took advantage of it. She somehow got Itachi, Anko and Yugao and even Shizune to come along with her to wherever she's going. She never wanted to be a leaf shinobi. It seems she no longer wants to ally with us, and she just might see us as an enemy to her," Jiraiya explained, looking a bit upset by this. "What are we going to do? Fugaku will be wanting to know where is his son," Tsunade says, looking a bit heartbroken that Naruko left and took Shizune. "We will have to inform the council about this." "Ready the council chamber," Hiruzen says as they decided to go to the council chamber. "Naruko, wherever you are, I hope you don't seek vengeance upon this village," the Kage said and thought sadly while glaring at a picture of Danzo. "I hope you are happy, Danzo. You better pray to Kami that Naruko doesn't kill you first, because I will," he thought with anger at his rival for turning Naruko into what she is. Elsewhere. Now in a new facility and base of operations. Danzo and his root are in exile, quietly increasing his forces, his manpower to be able to conquer and invade Konoha. He has been kidnapping other shinobi from other villages to condition them and convert them to root. He is now getting an alliance with Orochimaru. With the two of them together, they are a deadly alliance. Both of them together, along with dragging Suna and their deadly alliance to cripple and invade plus conquer Konoha. But even alliances won't last long. Knowing how crafty Orochimaru can be, after he takes Konoha, he will betray Orochimaru, seeing him as nothing more than a tool to help him achieve his goal and dream he had been denied of when Tobirama-sensei made Hiruzen Hokage. As for Suna, he didn't care what happens to them, he might as well betray the Kazekage. Once he fulfills his goal in making Konoha his, he will backstab both Orochimaru and Suna, then Konoha can be his for the taking. His creation, the Empress, he is entrusting Sai to monitor her. He had recently received a message from Sai, his weapon, found out the boy works for him, and she sent him a personal message. He smiled coldly. "Tempting, she's much clever than I take her for. Not to worry. I have something for her just in case she tries to attack me," Danzo says, not worried. He was confident that he can handle her. She is his weapon, his slave, and she will listen to her master. Little did he knew Danzo did not realize Jiraiya had removed the loyalty seal off of Naruko. Meaning he is in absolute doom when they meet. Back with Naruko. She had hunted and ate a bear. Now making her way back to her court. They widened their eyes and bowed, seeing her step forward. "Rise, my subjects. Let us locate the Stargate," she said in her gold voice as they risen and followed her. She was leading the way, tracking its presence. "Anne." Hathor's gold voice. Her and her court had went into the ruins of what used to be her mother's home. Once she returns with enough slaves, she will have Yuzu rebuilt in its glory. Once she becomes the new Supreme Gold Empress by killing Ra and other system lords, taking all what belongs to them, or even have at least one of them to serve her and join her. If not, they could all be destroyed, and she could have everything they desired. Since she is Hathor's heir. They would venture into the catacombs and finally found the Stargate that has been down there for centuries with the dial in front of it. She looks towards her court that consisted of her Jaffa. Itachi Uchiha, her first prime, along with her other Jaffa, Anko, Yugao, Zabuza and Haku. Along with Shizune as her healer and handmaiden. She would glance at the gate and put her hand on the dial, pressing the buttons to go to their first location of where they could find Ra. After finishing, the gate powered on to life, surprising her court. With a pleased smile, she decides to walk to it. "Let us venture to our conquest and rise to power," she said in her normal voice as she was the first to go in with the rest of her court to follow her in. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.